Hey everyone, welcome back. So today is finally time to talk about all the anticipated releases that are coming out in April that are on my radar. Same thing as always. I know there's so many titles out there, but I have 11 to share today that I am particularly excited about. So the first release date is April 1st, and the first one that I want to talk about is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. I have already pre-ordered this. I am so excited to read this one. I have already heard from some friends that this might be their favorite Abby Jimenez, which is a big thing to say because I love so many of her books. But we shall see. Now, the premise of this, if it wasn't written by Abby Jimenez, I might not be that excited about it. I could pick up a book with the same premise and think, okay, that sounds cute. But knowing that it's Abby, I know it's going to be great. So this is going to be a deeply emotional romance. We're following Xavier and Samantha. They have like a one-date situation that was perfect for both of them. But Samantha's family is currently in some kind of crisis. And so she is not into, it's just not the right time to get into a relationship. It seems impossible. She begs Xavier to forgive her. And so the story picks up and it says, distance and time is not enough to forget what was really between them. So I don't know, like I said, it doesn't sound anything crazy like I've never read before, but I know because it's Abby, it's going to be 5 stars. Like I said, pre-ordered. I will be reading that one in April. The Last Session by Julia Bartz. So Julia Bartz wrote The Writing Retreat, which I have from Book of the Month. Have not picked it up yet, but it sounds so good. But in this last session, it's a locked room thriller. We have a social worker that has some kind of dark past. And she meets a catatonic woman that shows up in a psychiatric unit. And she vaguely remembers her, and it turns out she may be someone from her past. So this patient disappears, and so Thea is the main character in here. She follows this trail of this missing patient and ends up in a wellness center that is very mysterious. She has to infiltrate it. It's in the center of the New Mexico desert. And this wellness center is led by a charismatic couple. It's a very controversial place, and this couple at this wellness center, it's a monthly retreat to uncover the attendees' romantic and sexual desires. So I don't know, sounds good, sounds different in some ways, similar in others from, that locked room, trope. I do enjoy that. So I'm excited to pick up The Last Session by Julia Bartz. Also on April 1st is Swept Away by Beth O'Leary. So Beth O'Leary is the author of The Flat Share, The Switch, The No-Show, and The Road Trip. So I have read The Switch. I have The Flat Share on my Kindle. And The No-Show I have on my shelves as well. So I've only actually read one by her, but I own 3 of her books. This one sounds really good. We have a one-night stand and it turns in there's some kind of miscommunication, and they wake up the next morning and they're on a boat in the middle of the sea. We're following Zeke, who is just in town for the weekend to try to buy back his late father's houseboat. And then we have Lexi, who has no time to date because she's taking care of her best friend's daughter. So that's all we know. It's a very short synopsis, but it sounds cute. It sounds like a one-night stand, and I'm sure as they're trying to survive in the middle of the ocean on this boat, they're probably gonna fall in love, I'm guessing. So those sound really good. I think that's all on April 1st. Oh no, one more for April 1st. A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. So this is number 2 in the Shadow of Leviathan series. Number 1 is called A Tainted Cup. So I won't get into too much about what number 2 is about because I haven't read number 1 and I don't want to spoil anything. But the first one, A Tainted Cup, we are following like a very magical, fantastical murder mystery with like kind of a Holmes and Watson type like vibe, from what I understand. More of that classic mystery vibe. And in the first one, we're following Anna DeLabra, who's called to investigate a murder that happens, a very mysterious murder, and she has a new assistant named Denius Cole, who has this perfect working memory and secrets of his own. And so through this investigation of this murder, a scheme is going to be uncovered that might threaten like the safety of the entire empire. So book 1 sounds really good. It's on my want to read list. So book 2 coming out, I just added that because, you know, probably won't look into book 2 until I read book 1 and hopefully love it. But I'm very intrigued by this series, and it has a lot of good hype, a lot of good ratings, and it sounds different than something I've read before. All right, April 8th, we have a couple on April 8th, Happy Land by Dolan Perkins Valdez. Now, she wrote Take My Hand, which I read and gave 5 stars. It's historical fiction. I absolutely loved it. It was such a powerful, heartbreaking story about just a hard time in our history, we'll say that. But Happy Land, this is kind of a little bit different than what I was expecting, but it sounds interesting. So there was a kingdom that was formed on acreage in Western Carolinas just after the emancipation in the hills of Appalachia. So this is a gorgeous, sweeping, hopeful story. We're following present-day Nikki, who is summoned by her grandma, who's kind of estranged from the family. And she starts to tell her story about her great-great-great-grandma called Queen Luella, and how much of her identity is rooted into this family's land. So that's kind of vague, a little bit, you know, but I'm excited to pick it up because of how much I love Take My Hand. I'm excited to read something else by her, and her writing was just A+, and so I'm excited to put this one on my radar. Okay, The Page Turner by Viola Shipman. So I've never heard of Viola Shipman. This one, actually, the cover grabbed my attention as I was scrolling, and I said, oh my gosh, what's this book about? So I love the cover of this. Viola Shipman, maybe you guys have heard of her, never heard of her, but she has like 14 or 15 backlist titles. So maybe if I love this one, that gives me some books to pick up. But we're following Emma. She's the black sheep of her family. Both her parents are very serious writers that write fine literature, very famous, very well known. Emma's sister Jess is a very powerful social media influencer who can make or break a novel. And then we have Emma, who is hiding a manuscript from her parents that she wrote about it's like a romance manuscript. She loves romance, loves writing it. She found inspiration in her cozy cottage that her grandma used to live in. But while she's there, she's going through her late grandmother's stuff, and there's a secret in her and in Gigi's belongings that has the power to ruin her parents' business and destroy their reputation. So I have to know what that is. What is the secret? I love a book about writers. It looks like we're going to have some interesting family dynamics in here. I love books with sisters. So this just sounds really good, and I love the cover. All right, April 15th, The Perfect Divorce by Geneva Rose. I'm so excited. I definitely will be putting a physical copy on my shelves. For Christmas, my daughter got me this, and it's the special Barnes & Noble edition of The Perfect Marriage. So this second book is the second book in the Perfect series, I think it's being called, and the Barnes & Noble edition of The Perfect Divorce look similar. So those are going to look really cool on my shelf. So I won't get into too much what The Perfect Divorce is about, but it picks up 11 years later after The Perfect Marriage. The Perfect Marriage, we're following Sarah Morgan, who's an attorney who defends her husband, Adam, against the charge of murdering his mistress. I gave that one 4.5 stars, solid thriller. So I definitely will be picking up that one for my shelves. Also on April 15th, we have The Death of Us by Abigail Dean. So Abigail Dean wrote Girl A. I DNF'd that one. I could not get into the writing style. So at first when I saw this, I kind of breezed past it, but then I heard some talking about it, and so I went back and did my own research. And it looks like we have psychological suspense mixed with like kind of crossover with a crime thriller. I love both of those. It was actually blurred by Stephen King, which is what kind of grabbed my attention towards this title. Excellent page turner written with an unobtrusive brilliance. So if Stephen King thought the writing was good, you know, maybe I need to give this author another shot. And it sounds so good. So this one we're following a marriage of a couple that had a, romantic young love, and their marriage now is built into such a solid foundation, and it is ripped apart by a violent encounter. So a serial killer breaks into their house, and basically that's the tragedy that happens. I don't know exactly what happens, but it definitely breaks their marriage apart. And then you pick up the story. And the couple's about 30 years old, which I appreciate, the older couple. And not older. I'm older than 30. Definitely not older. But 30, that they're not teenagers is what I like. And they pick up and they're reunited at the trial of the serial killer when they're 58. So that's all I want to know. I'm excited to give her another shot. But yeah, I just didn't like Girl A, and so I DNF'd it. Okay, April 22nd, we have one, and then I have two on the 29th. So 3 more to talk about. April 22nd, needs no introduction. Emily Henry's new book, Great Big Beautiful Life. I am so excited. Another, as soon as I get it, probably will read this. Probably be my first read in May, because it comes out the end of April. But we're following 2 writers, Alice and Hayden. They're kind of competing for a chance to write a biography of a lady named Margaret Ives, who has this larger-than-life story. She is the daughter of a very scandalous 20th century family. She's a tragic heiress, a tabloid princess, but no one has seen her for years. So she is giving each of these writers parts of her story. And so even though they're competing against each other to write this, it sounds like they have to work together. I'm sure romance ensues. And it says, each of them is given parts of her story. What will the story be? A mystery, tragedy, or love ballad? So Emily Henry can do no wrong in my eyes. I've only given her 5 stars. So this is definitely an auto buy for me. Okay, the last 2, April 29th. So we have The Staircase in the Woods by Chuck Wendig. I read a few years ago one of his books called The Book of Accidents. It's a horror style book. I don't read a lot of horror, so I gave, I think it was at 3 or 4 stars. I don't remember, but I remember enjoying it when I read it. So we're following 5 high school friends who are bonded together by an oath to protect each other at all costs. They are on a camping trip in the middle of the woods, and they find a staircase that leads to nowhere. One of the boys, one of these 5 friends, goes up the staircase, never comes back down. The staircase disappears until 20 years later. So they all gang up to get back together to find out if they can get answers on where their friend went 20 years ago when he disappeared. So sounds creepy, sounds mysterious. I'm excited. I probably will wait to pick this up more around Halloween, fall time, because like I said, I don't read too much horror, so I try to save the horror I'm excited about for the fall season. So we'll see, but it is coming out in April, and it sounds really good. Last but not least, we have a new Sarah Penner book called The Amalfi Curse. This takes place off the Amalfi Coast, which is a place I pray I get to go to one day. It sounds amazing. So Sarah Penner wrote The Last Apothecary, and I absolutely loved it. It was a debut novel. I gave it 5 stars. Then she came out with something called a London Seance Society, and I softy enough that I just could not get into it for some reason. And then I heard some friends saying like, yeah, it wasn't that great. So I kind of just softy enough'd it. I don't know if I'll pick it back up. This book may be like, hey, make or break. Do I like this author? Is she for me? Or was that first book more like a fluke thing? Who knows? But okay, let me tell you what this one's about. So in this book, we have witchcraft, we have hunt for sunken treasure, and we have forbidden love on the high seas. So that sounds good on its own. We are following Haven Ambrose. So she wants to locate these gemstones that her late father had spotted on his last dive. And in doing this, she unearths a century-old tale of ancient sorcery and one woman's quest to save her lover and her village by using magic to harness the ocean. So that's all I know, but it sounds good. I love a good shipwreck. I love the setting of the ocean and the diving. All of that stuff sounds so cool. So I'm curious to see if I like this one or not. Will it be a 5-star or will it be a soft DNF? We don't know. So there you have it. Those are the 11 books I am most excited about. They're coming out in April. What am I forgetting? Put down in the comments below. What are you guys excited about? And are any of these on your radar? Are you going to pick any of these up? So I love chatting with you guys down there, down below. And that's it. Have a great day. I hope you're reading something amazing, and I will see you in my next video. Happy reading. Bye.